You're on.
Hello to YouTube land. My name is Janet, rhymes with planet. I have been a social and environmental activist since third grade. Can never claim that I can share my humble opinion because I am rock solid in the faith that I know right from wrong. So, and truth when I see it, and lies when I hear it. I'm firm in those beliefs. So today it's a topic of truth. Where has it gone? Where is it hiding? Truth seems to be playing a perverted game of hide and seek nowadays. So, art delves into interpreting truth. The news been so busy lately with trying to find truth. It's worth fighting for. On the topic of art and movies, I have a favorite quote from Secondhand Lions on the topic. The Robert Duvall character is giving a little short speech to the young man on how to be a man. And the character says it's this. Truth is worth fighting for. Good will win out over evil, and true love lasts forever. And the character continues saying, it doesn't matter if these things are not true, they're worth believing in. So I brought some from my home. Truth is worth fighting for and believing in. For the things I like to read, this is just my personal library. And the central theme to all of these are truth. Here we have Betty's Beauty, written by Beverly Wilson. Truth in the very personal level. I've got my books in order from personal to community to politics to government to worldwide issues. So Beverly's truth is about her life, her growing up, and she grew up in a family where alcoholism was a daily problem. At the beginning of her book, I'm going to share this excerpt. After a while, sorry meant nothing. At the time, I didn't understand alcoholism and the destruction it leaves in its path. After a particularly long and bad night of being kept up all night, listening to the never-ending barrage of how it was one's fault, or that one's fault, but never his own, of course, and I went to school. I was in the 8th grade, walking down the hall like a zombie. It never occurred to me that others may be living like this. I was sure we were the only ones. All I could think of was what people thought that we were inferior and outcasts. Then, one morning, after yet another long night, the still small voice within me said, they will only know if I tell them. And so begins a lifetime of silence. Silence to anger, silence to pain, silence to struggle, silence to worry. This was the beginning. And so this is a beautifully written personal account of Beverly's journey to truth in her personal life. It's spiritually uplifting, very well worthwhile. All of these books are off of my shelf, in my opinion, and I don't have a humble opinion, I have a strong opinion. These are books worth knowing. The next one, by Winona LaDuke, environmental activist, dedicated her life to it. I recommend you read anything by Winona LaDuke. On the back, it shares the information that she was a 2-time Green Party vice presidential candidate. I voted for her. Alrighty. This one came out in a timely fashion just after the Standing Rock. And this one centers on truth and where has it gone concerning pipelines. So, the struggle and women's convention and the indigenous women all over the world leading the fight. Women and girls and children and boys and men are included too, and the family dog. Just so happens this is from Winona's perspective, and that's a wonderful perspective. A Cheyenne proverb. A nation is not conquered until the hearts of its women are on the ground. Then it is finished, no matter how brave its warriors or how strong their weapons. Cheyenne proverb. And the excerpt I'm reading is from what Clayton Thomas Muller spoke. He's Cree, and this is from 2013. There is a powerful metaphor between the economic policies of this country, Canada, and the U.S., and their treatment of our Indigenous women and girls. I have learned that our movement is very much led by women, and this is something I'm very comfortable. The sacredness of Mother Earth is in the tar sands, for example, and the fact that this represents the greatest driver to both Canadian and U.S. economies. Then you look at the lack of action being taken on the thousands of First Nations women and girls who have been murdered or just disappeared. It all begins to make sense. It's also why our women have been rising up and taking power back from the smothering forces of patriarchy dominating our economic, political, and other spheres. When you look at extreme violence taking place against social and I would say spiritual institutions, when we turn things around as a people, it will be the women who lead us, and it will be the creative feminine principle that they carry that will give us the tools we need to build another world. Indigenous peoples have been keeping a tap on what has been stolen from our lands, which the Creator puts us on here, Earth, to protect. And there is a day coming soon when we will collect. Until then, we will keep our eyes on the prize. Organize and live our lives in a good way, and we welcome you to join us on this journey. Confronting the pipeline in Pennsylvania is very relevant. If they are continued to go, it's going to be 25,000 miles of new pipelines crisscrossing Pennsylvania, going through somebody's backyard that you know, maybe your backyard, your forest, your creek. It's relevant. We're going to move on to Fear and Loathing, Campaign Trail 1972, Hunter S. Thompson. Page 57. The who run politics in this country have become so mesmerized by the Madison Avenue School of Campaigning that they actually believe now that all it takes to become a congressman or a senator or even a president is a nice set of teeth, a big wad of money, and a half a dozen media specialists. 1972 seems very relevant now in 2020. Hunter S. Thompson, famous for his chain of consciousness style of writing. This is a must-read. On the topic of the Campaign Trail 72, I am going to read the excerpts from Hunter S. Thompson's really very strong eulogy of Richard Nixon. We have an impeachment going on now. I am flabbergasted that they chose the Clinton model. Really? They should have chosen the Nixon model, because this is all about campaign interference by the president. The 1970s were a mean, hateful, violent time. I know we've romanticized it, but I was there. There was fighting in the streets. Much like now, we affected a lot of positive social change. It took strong effort and strong words. Nixon is gone now, and I am poor for it. He was the real thing, a political monster straight out of Grendel and a very dangerous enemy. He could shake your hand and stab you in the back at the same time. He lied to friends and betrayed the trust of his family. Not even Gerald Ford, the unhappy ex-president who pardoned Nixon and kept him out of prison, was immune to the fallout. Nixon had the unique ability to make his enemies seem honorable and develop a keen sense of fraternity. It was Richard Nixon who got me into politics, and now he's gone, I feel lonely. He was a giant in his way as long as Nixon was politically alive, and he was all the way to the end. We could always be sure of finding the enemy on the low road. There was no need to look anywhere else for the evil bastard. He had the fighting instinct of a badger trapped by hounds. This is Hunter S. Thompson. He uses strong words. The badger will roll over on its back and emit a smell of death, which confuses the dogs and lures them into a traditional ripping and tearing action. But it is usually the badger who does the ripping and the tearing. It is a beast that fights best on its back, rolling under the throat of the enemy and seizing it by the head by all four claws. That was Nixon's style, and if you forgot, he would kill you as a lesson to others. Badgers don't fight fair, Bubba. That's why God made dachshunds. These are harsh words for a man only recently canonized by President Clinton and my old friend George McGovern, but I have written worse things about Nixon many times, and the record will show that I kicked him repeatedly long before he went down. I beat him like a mad dog with mange every time I got the chance, and I am proud of it. He was scum. Let there be no mistake in the history books about that. Richard Nixon was an evil man, evil in the way only those who believe in physical reality of the devil can understand it. He was utterly without ethics or morals or any bedrock sense of decency. Nobody trusted him, except maybe the Stalinist Chinese, and honest historians will remember him mainly as a rat who kept scrambling to get back to the ship. And in 2 years after Nixon was kicked out, he was interviewed by a TV journalist, and he can be quoted. It is a matter of public domain. Thompson describes it as, he was not only a crook but a fool. 2 years after he resigned, he told a TV journalist, quote, "If the president does it, it can't be illegal." This is the legacy Nixon left us. The last book I'm sharing is Gulag, Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Chronologues Russia from 1918 to 1956. I have had this book for 2 years. It scares the pea waddens out of me. This isn't fiction. This is real. Nonfiction for those of you that are literary experts. To get the manuscript out of Russia, he had to keep and smuggle the handwritten manuscripts to a dear, trusted friend in Estonia, and where they were hidden. He was hiding it from the KGB. I'm only up to page 176. I can only read 10 pages at a time and put it down because this book scares me because it is relevant to here and now. It is a must-read. Page 176 so far. How the Stalins got their work done is they would make wild accusations. Here's a point. They'd make another, pull from something completely different, a point over there, and they would draw a connect line. Solzhenitsyn advised, instead of making 2 points and connecting them as if they are connected, you need to make several points and see what kind of shape it takes. That's where we're at now. This was published 1973. He was writing it in the 50s. Here is from page 177. We have to condemn publicly the very idea that some people have the right to repress others. In keeping silent about evil, in burying it so deep within us that no sign of it appears on the surface, we are implanting it, and it will rise up 1,000-fold in the future. When we neither punish nor reproach evildoers, we are not simply protecting their trivial old age. We are thereby ripping the foundations of justice from beneath new generations. It is for this reason, and not because of the weakness of indoctrinational work, that they are growing up indifferent. Young people are acquiring the conviction that foul deeds are never punished on earth, and that they always bring prosperity. It's going to be an uncomfortable, horrible way to live in such a country. These words are relevant. These books are worth reading. Truth is hiding. It doesn't mean you can't find it. You need to be diligent. You need to educate yourself. You need to cite your sources. You need to speak up. Call your senators. Tell them what you think. Because what's going on in the Senate is a travesty of justice. I thank you for listening. I hope somebody's out there listening. Again, it's not my humble opinion. These are my strong opinions, and I'm not alone. I thank John for sharing his channel with me, and I wish you good night. Good luck. Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.